Hi, I'm Oliver the Ricketts, and I see a lot of movies. That's what everybody tells me all the time, and it never gets old. Ever. At the end of the year, I like to take my top 10 best movies of the year and put them in a list. It's a really original idea that nobody else does. This is what a top 10 list is. You understand. Yeah, I'm just gonna get into it. 2019 was actually a really disappointing year for movies overall. I feel like at the beginning of the year, we weren't getting a lot of crap and bad movies, but we were getting a lot of movies that were just kinda nothing or kinda whatever. You know, a regular, So if a movie made this list, I really think it was something special that I'll remember for a couple years down the line at least. Jumping into it at number 10, if you know me at all, this should be an obvious pick, because there was a major Spider-Man movie out this year. And that's SpiderMan Far From Home. If you know me, you know that I love Spider-Man more than most things in my real actual life. It's very important to me. Also, if you know me, you know that I hate Spider-Man Homecoming.
Gonna cry?
I really don't like that movie. So I was nervous, to say the least, going into Spider-Man Far From Home, because I do like Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War, in Avengers Infinity War, and I almost cried when he came back in that other movie that we'll talk about later. So I had mixed expectations of Spider-Man Far From Home, but when the trailers were coming out, everything looked like it was a big step up from the last film, and we were getting closer to the Spider-Man that I recognize. And I think overall we got that. But I'll say right off the bat, I don't like the first hour or so of this movie. I think that there are scenes in this film that are bizarrely boring for a Spider-Man movie, to the point where at about an hour in, I had to stop and say, where the fuck is Spider-Man? And that doesn't sound like it's one of my best movies of the year. But then at that hour mark, the movie turns around hard. The second half of this movie has so many great little Spider-Man moments, tied with a really good understanding of the Spider-Man versus Peter Parker personality and how they have to intersect. Plus, Jake Gyllenhaal is awesome in this movie, and they gave him a fishbowl head. It's great. That's still crazy to me, and the fact that Spider-Man looks the way that he does, and we can do all these things with him, will always be really exciting to me. And that's why Spider-Man Far From Home makes my list. Coming in at number 9 on this list is Jojo Rabbit. This is actually a movie I was really excited about, not only because I love Taika Waititi, even predating Thor Ragnarok, but also because I think just the idea of Hitler being in the movie was a really cool idea. The best way to handle something so serious and so sad is to make it silly. Because when you make it silly, you take all of the threat away. And I think that that was something really cool that Taika Waititi was able to do with Hitler in this movie. In short, if you could put Hitler in more movies, I'd go to more movies. I don't think I can go to more movies. My pick for number 8 was possibly the most polarizing movie of the year, and that was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino obviously has his fans and people who are going to show up and love the movie no matter what, and at one point I was one of them. For a while I thought Pulp Fiction was one of the best scripts ever written, still do, actually.
That's all you had to say.
But you have to look at Kill Bill at a certain point and say, it's okay to like this, but part of me just likes this because it's Quentin Tarantino.
It's so much fun, Chan! Get it!
And I feel like that's how his movies have been lately, especially with The Hateful Eight. But I do love the Manson murder. No, I don't love the Manson murder. I do find the Manson murder really, really interesting, though. But at the same time, I feel like it would have been really disrespectful to do a straight-up Charles Manson kills Sharon Tate murder. Quentin Tarantino and the Manson murder really went together nicely, because you had something that had to be uniquely handled, and somebody who had to do something different just for their filmography. Tarantino wants to pump out 10 movies and then be done, and I have total respect for that. I just hope that the next and last one is even half the quality of this movie. In my number 7 spot, I have a movie that is way better than it had any right to be, and that was Dr. Sleep. The concept of a Shining sequel is not something that sounds good, and before this movie came out, I'd be somebody who would tell you that's a movie that should never happen. What Dr. Sleep does is what every sequel that's made years later should do, and that's not treat it like a nostalgia trip. Yes, there are nostalgic elements from The Shining in Dr. Sleep, and yes, there are concepts that are carried over from that story, but it's all used to develop a brand new story, but actually add to the Shining mythology and make it something bigger and cooler. When coming up with this list, I tried my best to stay away from superhero titles. Not because I'm against those movies, I actually love superheroes, I love blockbusters, but I feel like when they come out they get their own accolades and their own claims to fame that I don't need to put them on my list and tell you to go see them. But if they're movies that stick with me, then I have to anyway. And it just so happens that this next movie is a movie that is still sticking with me, that I'm still thinking about, and that movie is Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix. It really is incredible that this movie came together the way that it did, because objectively this is a bad idea. To have a Batman movie well, I've already made this video. I've explained many times why this movie is a bad idea, but just as a refresher, you shouldn't make superhero movies without the attached superhero, unless you actually have an idea. And you know what? I think Todd Phillips really had an idea. It's hard to watch and it's disturbing, but it's also strangely entertaining and relatable, and at the end, the result is heartbreaking. Moving on and getting into my top 5 picks from this year, I'm going to start with a movie that almost flew totally under my radar. Marriage Story hit Netflix late in 2019 and got tremendous word of mouth. I was expecting to like this movie, but I wasn't expecting it to be something that totally moved me emotionally. It's almost life-affirming to watch these people struggle with each other and their relationship. I just love the message that divorce can be messy and sometimes relationships end, but that doesn't mean that all those emotions that you felt for that person were not valid and not important. At number 4, I know I've already said I was trying to steer away from superhero movies, but I'm gonna put the biggest superhero movie of all time, and that's Avengers Endgame. There's something to be said for 10 years of really exceptional storytelling and filmmaking. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is now a permanent fixture in American pop culture, so to see it wrapped up for me in such a satisfying and epic conclusion was more than I ever could have hoped for. Of course it helps that I've loved superheroes since I was a really little kid, and of course it helps that this is a movie that I never thought could be possible, but just the quality is there, and this is amazing storytelling on every level. And I'm so glad that it beat Avatar's total box office record. That's still incredible. It almost makes you wonder what could ever do that again. So I guess we'll be living under the Avengers Endgame shadow for the rest of our lives. And that's totally fine with me. Approaching these top 3 films, this is really where I had a hard time with this list. I would say I love these top 3 movies almost equally in different ways, so it's just about which reaction I value the most. Coming in at number 3 is... To me, Knives Out is watching an artist that I really love come back to his true form. I've been a fan of Rian Johnson for almost his entire filmography, and I'm of the camp that Last Jedi was a very good movie. But it wasn't a Rian Johnson flick. This is a Rian Johnson movie. The reason I like his direction so much is that he usually takes something familiar and flips it on his head, and that's exactly what he did with Knives Out. The movie's still new, so I don't want to say what the twist is, but this was a way to tell a whodunit that I don't think I could have ever predicted, and I don't think I knew that I wanted to see something like this. And in a truly bizarre turn of events, my number 2 pick for 2019 is an Adam Sandler movie. I hate Adam Sandler, but the reason I don't like him is because he's a really talented guy who never utilizes his talent. So when I saw Uncut Gems at the very end of this year,
holy shit, I'm gonna come,
blew me away. I was expecting him to be good in the movie, but I wasn't expecting a performance like this, or a movie around that performance to be this good.
You having a good time? Yes.
It's filmmaking that makes you feel something. It's a movie that keeps you incredibly tense all the way through from every detail, whether it be the sound design or just some crazy twist in the plot. I think I've mentioned that this was a really hard list to make, but I'll say it again. This was a really hard list to make. Keep in mind that just because these are honorable mentions doesn't mean that they're not up to par with these other movies. It's just that I enjoyed something about these other movies more than the movies I'm about to show you. Here are my honorable mentions for the best movies of 2019.
If you had thousands of dollars to go on a trip to see Blink 182, that's on you. That is Darwinism at its finest.
Somebody's whispering in your ear. Everything's gonna be okay. Be careful.
Well, it seems excessive. Shotgun. Just kidding. I don't have one.
How long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks? 2 days? Help me to recollect.
Coming in at number 1 is Beach Bum. Beach Bum is a movie that is criminally slept on. People who did see it don't like it, but that's not even that many people because this movie made no money at the box office. In fact, I think it's career low for Matthew McConaughey. But one person did see it, and that was me, and I thoroughly and truly love this movie. There's something about the philosophy of this story and of this guy that is a total deadbeat that somehow brings up everybody's life that I absolutely adore. It's so beautifully shot, and it's so delightfully silly and fun.
Let me have a gangbang when I get back. I will invite your mother.
Thank you, Mr. Moondog.
I cannot sing the praises of this movie any higher. For me, this is Matthew McConaughey at his career best. Why don't people like this movie? And that does it for my list of the top 10 best movies of 2019. Thank you so much for watching this list. Going to the movies is my favorite thing to do. And it's really, really nice for me to share these movies that I love with anybody. So, if you haven't seen any of the movies on this list, go watch them. My girlfriend Brittany and my very good friend Jeremy made great lists as well of the top 10 movies of 2019. If they're not up yet, they will be soon. Definitely go check those out in the description. While you're at it, also check out this episode of our podcast, Goddammit Hello, where we break down the top 5 worst movies of 2019 as well. I'm also going to leave a link to an unlisted playlist of all the different movie reviews I made for movies appearing on this list. Definitely go check all that stuff out, or watch this video again, or don't. I'm not your boss. I'm Oliver the Ricketts, and these are the top 10 movies of 2019. And not like last year, it wasn't a cartoon, it was a real spider... I liked that cartoon better than I like this movie. Film expensive and important. Apple important. Bring home apple. Hold on, I'm trying! You know what? I'll never think ever again.
Oliver! No more sounds now.
Who's playing a video? Come on, Jeremy.
I closed it out, but it was still playing.
What's the deal, Jeremy?
Right,
You want to
so
have a little chat?
You're recording.